Good morning, everyone. Today's topic is a very sensitive topic. At the same time, it's about one of the necessity of today's times, when we all are getting bogged down by the negative news from the media about the hypersensitive teens and their suicide cases or their extreme behaviors. It's imperative for all of us as citizens and grown-ups to understand how to tackle the teens tactfully. It's an art with a science, which is embedded with human skills. Why am I saying so? We all know biologically that the teenagers are the students who are aging from 13 to 19. TNNE, teen, is something which is a very, very challenging phase for any human being to handle. So, before we proceed for understanding the further part, let's understand its biological importance or the biological phenomenon behind all this thing. Understanding the teenage brain or the human brain. Now, the first and foremost, we all know that since the birth till the death, we all are growing by leaps and bounds. But the teenage is such an age where the brain reaches to its maximum size and it undergoes extensive remodeling during this time. Now, with some areas maturing earlier than the others, like prefrontal cortex, synaptic pruning, myelination, and limbic growth are some of them. Now, out of that, I would like to draw your attention towards the prefrontal brain. Now, what happens with this? The prefrontal cortex is the last places in the brain which is going to be mature. So, it is also termed as the personality center, and it is cortical region that makes us uniquely human. Now, what will happen with that? The cognitive abilities are getting developed during this time, and then the teenage people start understanding the sensitivity about each and every issue. Till the kid age, the kids are not much bothered about what is happening with them or what is happening around them. Now, here with this kind of changes which are happening in the prefrontal cortex, they start becoming processing the day-to-day activities. Means if somebody has raised a voice against them, why is it so? If somebody is walking in a particular fashion, why is it so? They start correlating and reasoning out everything. And that is where a lot of things start changing during this particular phase. The second and important phase of brain development is, of course, hormonal influence. We know that hormones are chemicals which are secreted by endocrine glands, which are affecting the human hormones or the emotions, mood swings, developmental things. Now, in boys and girls, the testosterone and estrogen are the two main hormones which are responsible for their biological growth as at the puberty stage. Now, when these changes are taking place, the kids actually do not understand what exactly is taking place. So that is the reason they usually feel, or they usually are bewildered with their own bodies as well as their own behaviors. This is a time where their risk-taking behavior is also observed. Yes, I mean to say that they all would like to explore something. And exploration sometimes leads to risk-taking behaviors. That means they want to try out each and everything which up till now was banned for them. And these risky behaviors can become a problem if it is not addressed at a particular time. Fourth important point, sleep patterns. At this particular juncture, when their body is undergoing biologically different kind of changes, this particular phase also makes a drastic change in their sleep patterns. They do not now want to have only and only sleep during the night time. They want to explore a lot of things. That's the result. They are anxious, and the anxiety leads to their disturbed sleep patterns. As a result, it affects the teenagers' overall health and well-being. Now, what are the challenges which are faced by them? Let us understand that first. The first and very important thing, academic pressure. Second, sibling rivalry, and the third, technology dependency. Now, the first point, when we are understanding, that is academic pressure, we all know that in this today's world, everywhere there is a blast of knowledge, as well as everybody would like to reach to the zenith of their careers. And we as parents or the adults are always worried to direct them towards the academic performance. Come what may be, whatever theories are there in the educational scenario or whatever things are there, but we are not ready to accept uniqueness of the child. This is something which creates a great amount of pressure to the child, because we consider all fingers equal. We do not want to understand that each finger or each person has its own uniqueness and competencies. At the same time, we all are born with certain set of skills which are inherited, certain set of acts which we can do, which we can enhance by taking trainings as well as undergoing a lot of trainings. Now, this academic pressure is one of the major reasons of the adolescent students to going into the shells. Second important reason, sibling rivalry or loneliness. Now, why I have written both the opposite words over here? Because it's not necessary that always you have two children in the family. At the same time, the child can be lonely, but at the same time, the entire expectations of the burden comes to the child. Sibling rivalry somewhere down the line keeps on comparing with one child to the another one. Most of the parents have a tendency, knowingly or unknowingly, to keep on comparing their children in certain aspects. If one of the child is very, very responsible in certain areas, we expect the another child to become the same one. If one child's academic performance is very good, we would like always the younger one to imitate that one. At the same time, the loneliness takes its own toll to the overall development in the child's progress. How? The loneliness, in the sense, when the nuclear family situations are there, the children are bound to stay or spend a lot of time with themselves. They do not have grown-ups around them, or they lack a lot of teenage students or their own circle around them. It results into a kind of great amount of loneliness, which in a way makes them very negative. The third and important aspect, technology dependency. We all have become the victims of the screens, and we cannot exclude our children from them. The teens are always glued to their screens for some or the other reason. On one way, they have academic commitments to fulfill. On the another way, they have certain social circles. Or the third thing is that for the amusement. So by hook or crook, the screens are always there and the technology is in and around all of us. It's like now oxygen in our life. So it's very imperative for all of us to find out the ways and means to have healthy technology options which can be delivered to our students. Now, how can we have the tackling of all these things? We have seen how the growth is taking place. We have seen what all are the factors which are affecting the teens and their mood swings. Now, effective communication means what? When we are talking to the students, we need to have active listening strategies. Many people just sit with the children or the students and they pretend to be listeners. It's not like that. Active and passive, these are the two different ways of listening. When we are listening to them, we should not be having our preconceived notions for interrupting their communication in between. It's very, very important because it gives them a kind of great validation. Active listening always helps them feel safe to communicate. And they feel heard. They feel that their opinions, their values, or their any experiences matter to us. And that's where the first step, or you can say the first important skill which we develop to allow a child to grow in a healthier fashion. The second important factor, non-judgmental approach. 90% of the time, we as grown-ups have our own experiences from our past. So with every experience which our child undergoes or a teenager shares, we have our views to put forth and say that this thing will work and this thing will not. It's not necessary. We cannot be judgmental. And when we do such kind of behavior, we indirectly are stopping them for becoming decision makers. There are a lot of techniques which will help us to become non-judgmental. We have to allow them to explore what is good and what is bad and what can be the win-win situation. So the dialogue opening and the forum where the child is fearlessly coming forth and sharing his or her views on any political, social, personal, or any emotional aspect is very, very important. Please remember, do not give any direct solutions. They do not like any solutions because this generation is not dependent on you. Our generation was a different generation where we had lack of resources. Today's generation is having plethora of resources. At the same time, they have their brain development done in such a way that they know a lot of things are happening and what can be the best thing. So we shouldn't be doing any kind of criticism, as well as we should not snub them, because this hinders the growth as well as their abilities to understand about certain things. They start having the inhibitions about the parents or the grown-ups who are criticizing them. They become judgmental, and then it results into a slow but steady negative things. Empathy and validation. Gain insights into the power of empathy and validation when communicating with them. Yes, empathy does not mean that you are trying to console them. You need to, again and again, I'm emphasizing, you need to empathize with them. You need to listen them very carefully without making any kind of judgment. This will validate their communication. The next step comes when these things are through it. These are some of the steps which are important for building trust with teens. How can we do that? Is it easy? No, it's not. Because each teen, there is no rocket science to gain the trust of a teen or a group of teens. Why? Because each individual is different. The environment or the family circumstances through which the child is growing up is different from one to another. As a result, building trust with teens is not at all an easy task. So there should be a lot of strategies which can establish trust making with the team of the teenagers or a particular teenager, which will foster the sense of safety and security for them. Say, for example, when something they have shared with you and it is with you, you haven't judged them, you haven't shared it with anyone, and you have not given any comment on that, that itself shows that you are a trustworthy person for a teen to be shared, making a bond with you. At the same time, does it mean that you will give them n number of opportunities to cross the boundaries? Of course not. You need to have a dialogue in which you are setting certain boundaries for everything, right from the academic expectations to their behavioral expectations, to their personal hygiene, or to any other kind of behavior, social, emotional. You need to teach them by exemplifying yourself. It's said that whatever you are preaching, you need to practice. So when we are expecting certain things, we need to practice it in front of the teen. That is the best thing a parent or a grown-up can do with a teenager. Consistency and reliability. You need to discover the importance of being reliable and consistent in order to build trust. Yes, when we are talking about building the trust with the parents as well as with any other teenager community, it's not a one-day task. It will happen slowly and steadily. As and when you are involving them in different kind of activities and you are giving them opportunities to discover their own decision-making skills, their own leadership abilities, as well as exploration, here comes the opportunities which you have settled for them. It makes a kind of good consistency and reliability for them to you. Positive discipline techniques are very important. Why? Because when we are talking about discipline, it is always looked into a different way. Why? Because discipline means something which is bitter. So discipline means something which is not allowed. But then, can it be done in a different way? Yes, of course it can be. We need to have clear expectations. So we need to have a clear set of instructions which are reasonable. Why am I saying reasonable? We cannot say that today you have scored these many things, so you do something magical in the next 15 days. It's not going to happen. Same is the case with weight gain or weight loss. Most of the teenagers are very, very concerned about their own physical appearances. Specifically in today's world, body shaming or commenting on anybody's skin tone is something which is clear-cut no. So we need to have the same kind of behavior in front of our kids and teens, that this is what is something which is expected and we shouldn't be crossing these limits. When certain things are not expected, it should not be crossed. That is something which is very, very important for the parents as well as the grown-ups to clear with them. This clear expectations give them a path to go on, and also the consequences. We cannot be harsh, or we cannot have a fear factor working with them, because fear is something which is the last thing which comes in the connections. So if the matter of fear comes, then automatically the teenagers start going into a shell. This results into a lot of emotional trauma, distress, and further it can grow to depression, and then we know what happens after that. So logical sequencing of certain disciplinary approaches are to be cleared. Like, for example, if the child has chosen to go for badminton, or he or she would like to pursue this as a career, you need to explain them in what systematic order it has to go on. Exemplifications or giving real-time examples will not work. You need to stand by them. They need somebody with them. So the logical sequencing always works. Secondly, reward systems. Reward doesn't mean only materialistic rewards. Sometimes a small word of praise or a smile on your face can work wonders for every teen. As I keep on saying, every teen is a unique human being. We must understand about the uniqueness of the child as well as his or her factors which work for them as a reward. We must empower them by teaching them how to set the goals for themselves. It can start from a day-to-day routine, which can transcend into weekly platforms or weekly patterns, then monthly, and then long-term goals. Having the expectations which are high, but there is no action, will never result into any success. That has to be clarified to them. So it can happen with journaling. It can happen with rightly writing certain things and finding out the resourceful information from various places, building resilience. Exploring techniques to help the teens bounce back from setbacks is very, very, very important. Why? Because the emotional quotient is very high. As I have kept on telling you that the hormonal changes makes them feel always make or break. They are always trying to have adrenaline rush, which can result into, or it can trigger their emotions, and which will result into disastrous behaviors. That's the reason whenever any smallest setback is taking place, we must allow them to gulp it. We must allow them some retention time and then help them to come out of that to go ahead, because life is all about moving ahead with a lot of persistence and patience. Secondly, we must allow them for communication as well as community involvement. We can allow them to go for club activities, for some explorations, mountaineering. There can be a lot of places where they will find a same age group, which has same kind of inclinations, same habits, same interests, as well as some online educational platforms where they can discover their own potential, and apps are there which has great resources which are educational. The another important aspect which we must look into this growing up ages, that is mental health support. These days, a lot of awareness is there, but is it in the right way? Because considering the market strategies as well as the marketing gimmicks, there are a lot of professionals who claim to be mental health professionals, but they actually are not. And mental health support does not mean that you are going to a psychiatrist. That is something which is very, very clear cut understanding. So we must help our child to understand in case of any emotional triggers are taking place, in case of sudden traumas, deaths in the families, or accidental problems. The setback can be there in any individual's life. Here, the good, genuine mental health support system will help the child to regain his or her confidence, to build himself or herself. There are a lot of resources. There are a lot of self-help books available which can help to understand the emotional triggers, which can help to become more organized, systematic, as well as more focused towards the goals. Mental health support does not always means that you are going on a particular medication part. Mental health support will always help the child or the individual to direct in a proper fashion. Then the third and very important resource is parenting books. Yeah, no book can teach you how to become a good parent. I agree with that, because parenting is experiential learning life. I always say that parenting is something which we choose to become a parent. The child was destined to come into your lives because you wanted to become a parent. So it's your responsibility to look into the pros and cons of every aspect related to your child, whether it is expenses, whether it is moving out, whether it is going for traveling, whether it is budget planning. Everything is a matter of parenting. Parenting books can give a lot of insights, because there are a lot of factors which we cannot disclose with any other people or any other such people who will make a gossip monging circle for it. That's the reason certain resources, certain activities always help the parents to look into themselves or to mirror themselves and to understand their own behavioral changes, their own behavioral problems, and they can always mend themselves. One of the major aspect which is overlooked always is the broken family issues or the disputes between the husband and wife, or any kind of communication problem in the family also takes a toll of child's growth. So various resources will help us to understand about all these matters in a very, very effective manner, and we can surely help the child to grow in a healthier fashion. At the same time, certain techniques and tricks will always work and certain things will not. So one has to be ready and have a smile on his or her face to tackle a team. And then I'm very sure that it will be very effective to tackle them and navigate them through their difficult days of the teenager, their difficult yet beautiful days, which will make them a kind of metamorphosis in their life, and they'll be able to become good and mature citizens. This is from my end. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. There are some questions lined up, ma'am. Would you like to take them?
Yeah, surely.
Yeah. Can you stop sharing your screen?
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So the first question is, you have actually explained, everything, but, I would like to read these questions again since the audience have posted it. The first question is, how do you approach the delicate balance of respecting teens' autonomy while guiding them tactfully?
Yeah, nowadays it is very, very tough. In the olden days, it was only a autocratic system which was going on in the families, that the parent would say and the child will listen. But nowadays, it's not that. So here comes a kind of meeting which can be there. It's a tact. You need to have a meeting with the child and explain him or her what is their expectation. When they explain their expectation, we need to put forth our expectations that, see, this is what we expect. And this is what is appropriate, and this is what is something which is inappropriate. And somewhere down the line, when every pointer is discussed, that can be notified, that can be noted down by the child, and we can ask the child to make those important points as the pointers, wherein certain things are strictly no, certain things are sometimes allowed, and certain things are always yes.
So can you share
These are
specific
some of the techniques which can be. I'm sorry. Yeah,
Right.
I didn't get your question, ma'am.
No. Go ahead, ma'am. I thought like you were done answering the first question.
Yeah. So, for example, if I am talking about a simple issue which is happening, that post school time, the child comes and throws the things here and there, and the things are always haphazard. Means a kind of mess is created. So, 2 days, 3 days, you are observing, you are doing everything on your own, and then you are blasting at the child. You are telling him or her not to do it, and still the repetitive behavior is there. You'll have to you can do a simple activity that, okay, next day the things are not making, you are not getting it in the morning. Why? Because they are thrown here and there. You'll just watch the child finding out his or her things in the morning at the school time, or going out, and then he or she will understand what at such kind of instances. Sometimes it is experiential learning for them as well, that, okay, the things that were not kept at its place, so I didn't get it. So this is something which is not good. The second kind of thing can be, you are making a rule, a small rule book kind of thing is there, and tick tick kind of, you have done the tick of it, and you are telling the child that, okay, fine, fantastic, you are doing marvelous, because you are managing your things in a proper way. So these are some of the smallest examples which can be done at home, because it will reflect into their further behaviors when they go out of their houses in hostels and for college studies, which will, of course, automatically help them to become more organized person.
Okay. So in addressing sensitive topics with teens, what principles or frameworks do you find most helpful?
Or, yeah. When we are talking about sensitive issues, it can be, it is very difficult, of course, to manage, but one has to face that the principle of keeping the confidentiality is one of the major thing which is very, very important. At the same time, looking into the scenarios which are taking place in and around us to make them aware about cybercrime, cyber issues or frauds, and the issues pertaining to AI are also very important, to keep a tab on their own behaviors. At the same time, if certain thing has happened with them, keeping it at a low profile and keeping it in a confidential way, to how to navigate through it by giving a supporting hand, by listening to them actively, and by allowing them to engage themselves in a lot of physical and mental activities, will always help to move them through the setback towards the better life.
Right, ma'am. So how do you stay informed about current trends and issues that impact teenagers today?
Yeah, fortunately, I keep on dealing, and I have a teenage daughter. At the same time, I have a lot of student circle which is of the same age. So we have a concept. We have a meeting on a fortnightly time. We have a book club, online book club, and through which we are discussing certain pointers, and we keep sharing certain informations about different issues or different things. Say, for example, recent example of defeat in the World Cup finals. It was the talk of the town. But then in what way the things happened, or what can be that was the part of the game, the sportsmanship, the lack of sportsman behavior and in certain parts. Or the another part is about dressing sense. Another part can be various issues which are pertaining to classroom behavior, and this will be by certain set of teachers in happening in their classrooms. Like that, the children keep on telling such stories, and then their friends help them certain times to overcome out of it. Or beautiful discussions are also done, like certain good examples from their lives, in what way they played the role of a good Samaritan to help an old person in the society to gain something for them, or helping a peer to overcome the fear of maths or any other particular subject. Like that, we have such forums in which we keep on discussing and helping the children to meet one another, and informally, formally. Secondly, we have a beautiful session wherein only listening is done. The other person has a talking time. A mic is given and the person wants to talk about the matter which is bothering to them. It can be as simple as a pimple on the face. Girls are very much bothered about all these things, skin and skin routine. So they keep on sharing that, oh my God, I'm not looking good. This is something very shitty which is happening to me and all. So when she has vented out her own emotions, nobody is going to give any response to that. But at the same time, she is empty because she has vented out her own emotions. After that comes the reason behind it. Then we try to explore that, okay, these are the eating habits, these are the hygiene habits which can be inculcated, which will help her to come out of that particular zone. So these are some of the practices which we allow or which we discuss among the groups. Sometimes we have only mothers groups wherein we are sharing our anxieties, our fears about our own children. And then, of course, it is not transcended to the kids. And whatever things are shared within the group remains with the group. That is the sanctity of the meeting.
Okay. So how do you adapt your communication style when dealing with diverse backgrounds and experiences among teenagers, ma'am?
Yes, absolutely right. The experiences are diverse, and the students these days are coming from various kind of backgrounds. It can be economical, it can be social, urban, rural, and all. So for me as a tutor, or for me as a elderly person, the most important thing is that I need to keep my ears open, and I have to become a very, very good active listener. At the same time, I keep noting down the pointers which are very important, and the communication channel. I am not giving any particular solution to them, because as I was emphasizing during my presentation, that they don't want instant solutions. They want to explore, they want to learn, they want to do mistakes and learn from it. So whenever we are discussing certain issues, we keep talking about, okay, this is what is the issue. So what can be the solution? Solution A. What is the methodology behind it? Solution B. What are the steps for it? Solution C. Now, if it is related to the finances and already the child is having certain financial restrictions, what can be the alternative to it? What can be the available thing to it? That is how the child himself or herself, I just keep on posing such questions which triggers their thinking and which allows them to go deeper into their own psyche to understand that, okay, this is what is available with me and I have discovered it. So the question answer methodology, as well as noting down certain things, helps them to go and understand and navigate through the situations. At the same time, not making judgmental decisions based on their heard part from their elders about certain lifestyle of certain people, or having notions that, okay, wealthy people don't have any worries, or poor people get all the facilities. These are two extreme things which are there in our society. So it's not like that. We all are struggling, and the struggle can be different for different person, different family, and different society. So when it is understood, we can navigate them to think beyond that and find out a way out of it. Because with God's grace and with the blessings of technology, we have lot of things which are on the fingertips. But the only need is to navigate it with a proper understanding and focused mind.
Okay, ma'am. So last but not the least, I have a couple of questions left. Because of the time constraint, I can only ask one question now. How do you navigate the fine line between being a supportive guide and respecting teens' need for independence?
Yeah, at times it's very difficult, because many a times it happens that you understand that the child is having a different kind of expectation which is not appropriate for his or her age, and you need to be assertive at point of time. Say, for example, if a child was wanting to have a two-wheeler and going to the tuition classes or coaching centers or anywhere with a two-wheeler, there is no license facility available. We know, but then the peer pressure, the exact amount of peer pressure or excessive peer pressure is there, that everybody is going, why cannot I? So here, two factors will work. The first thing is that the legal aspect, and the second aspect is we have another options available. So you can explore that. If everybody is doing, is it safe? If you won't do this, what can be the repercussions? So understanding that repercussions part, when we explain the child that there are chances that the children understand the technicality of it and the seriousness about it, and they can drop their idea of getting whatever they want. This is the first example. And the second scenario can be if there is a kind of addiction which is observed in the child, it can be very dangerous. So at that point of juncture, we must take help of certain psychologist or a counselor. And addictions are something which is strictly no. And in what way in long run harms them biologically or mentally, that has to be explained with a lot of examples. And then it can be in a very short span of time with a great amount of support can be relieved from them. So these are a few examples which I can share.
Okay. School Journal of Education and schoolreformer.com. Thank you for the talk and for patiently answering all the questions, ma'am. We also thank the audience for participating in the event. We will end the session now. Do you want to say anything else, ma'am?
No. Thank you, audience, for being such a wonderful audience and posing those insightful questions. Thank you, Praveena.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day. Thank you.